guys, Ben Travojevic here from the Manly Seagulls.
Here comes through Luai.
The SuperCoach Experience podcast is one of the best podcasts going around, boys.
They go to hole.
Keep doing what you're doing, and yeah, I just want to say, what a podcast. Go the Mighty Eagles.
Hey lads, Ewan Aiken here from the New Zealand Warriors. Hope you have a big year with the SuperCoach Experience podcast.
Got the ball to Sims. It's down to hole. To hole. It's gone in again. What a pass.
And welcome to the SuperCoach Experience Sunday night pod. Round 11 is in the books, and we have some very, very interesting talking points to get onto. But tonight I'm joined with the one, I say this for every guest, but the one, the only, Mikey Addard. Mikey, how are you going?
Yeah, good, mate. It's good to be on the Sunday pod, making my debut on the Sunday one, as I'm going to be missing the Tuesday pod next week. So, yeah, keen to wrap it up while it's all fresh in our minds. So, yeah, as you said, man, there's a lot of talking points today. So, it's going to be a very interesting week come Tuesday to do our trades because, yeah, it's a bit of a headache just by looking at it.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, this week was kind of a bit of a boring week. You know, a lot of people were saving trades, so it's good to get back into the exciting times in SuperCoach. So, firstly, what were your trades this week? I know you were talking about Luke Garner, and he's a big one that you brought in. But and how'd you go in the round?
Yeah, so quickly with the trades, because I know people watching on here don't like it when we go do something different. So I said all week I was going to do Snyder to Johnson, which would have been an excellent trade. So if anyone kind of liked my thoughts on the pod of Sean Johnson, you'd be happy with that score and you're going to make a bit of cash there. So, yeah, handy pickup. I didn't go with that option. I was actually going to save the trade. And then we had a big hour spill in the inbox between me and Sabs. And he goes, Mikey, you're really good at picking these weird second rowers. And I've done it with Kenny Bromwich many times. He goes, look, if you think he's going to go good, trust your gut. Because I was just worried that Tuolangi was going to take his spot on the starting side last minute. And because I was going to trade more Messiah to him, I just backpedaled. But yeah, I traded Ben Travojevic, as I don't think he'll be back for the buys. I'm just running out of people to sell, so I've got to sell some of these guys that just aren't playing. So I've sold him, and I got in Garner. He scored a try in the first 5 minutes. I was very happy. So 81, he's going to get dual center wing next week, and he'll make about 60K. So I'm happy with the short-term purchase there. I'm also just looking at the second buy rather than just the first one. Like, if I can field 10 or 11, that's good. But right now, I've only got 6 for the next one. So just trying to balance. But yeah, right now, I'm on 1,034, which doesn't look that great. But I think that's going to kind of be around par. Like, I've won 5 out of 10 leagues. I'm looking around at everyone else. I think 1,100 plus is going to be a really good score this week. I think that's around the average. What do you reckon, Maxi?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, that looks to be around what everyone in our leagues is scoring around. The 1,000-point mark, I think, will even get you maybe a green. It's just a very, very low scoring week. I wasn't as fortunate as you to bring in Garner. I kind of thought about it. He looks fantastic, and obviously for a Penrith fan, must be stoked to bring him across next year.
100%.
But I think I might, in fact, I didn't get him in this week. He's a big talking point, but we'll get to him later. My trades were Josh King up to Ryan Madison, which was, fantastic. He upgraded to 91. So all of that pretty much in base was fantastic. And I don't think he'll make Origin, but for around 17 buy, he looks to be an absolute keeper. So that was a good trade, and I brought in Trent Peoples as my second trade. I believe that was for Tuolangi. Do I think he's a red hot cheapie? No, but I just needed someone to make some cash, and it seemed like a good trade to make. But I scored around you 10-23. I got in my final score,
similar.
which. Similar, to trades. It wasn't a fantastic week. I don't think for anyone really, except if you own someone like a Cobbo and Stags, kind of combination. But still, I think it will get us there.
Yeah, 100%. My other trade I did, which isn't good in short term, was Penasini to kick out, and I've held Penasini a while, and to see him go 97, I was a bit crushed because I saw him kind of peaked out at price, and yeah. But look, I'm short to I think I'm happy with the kick out purchase. I think he'll update to 50 with those offloads, and that's not that bad with basically base, and I think he's going to be vital for this buy round period for me. So, um, yeah, it is what it is. You can't get it all right.
No, you can't, and you probably wouldn't have played Penasini anyway if you had him. If you
Oh,
didn't
I would
trade
have had
him.
to. Yeah, I would
You
have.
would
I
have
would have had to have been forced into playing him. Yeah, definitely. My center wing's garbage. So if I kept him, I would have played him. So I would have been better off not doing that trade. But hey, you've got to balance these buy round numbers as well because with that round completed, we've got one round in between the buys. So it's getting really close this Origin period.
Yeah, and for Kickout, he's a season-long hold. He's a 19th, 20th man at worst, and you can plug and play him in whatever matchups you see is most likely for him to feast. So I think that's a really good trade. And Penasini, I mean, yes, we thought Manly probably wouldn't be the hardest side for Eels to get up on, but still, I mean, we put in a pretty good fight, and he did obviously have those attacking stats, but he could get a 30 or a 40 in all likelihood. So good long-term move, which brings us on to the first game of the night, which is first game of the review tonight, which is the Knights and the Broncos, which is a Thursday night game. So the winners were Cobbo with a 131, Ricky with a 96. Ezra Mann, the preseason cheapie hype, came through with an 88. Stags with an 83. Ponga with a 78 for Newcastle, and Clemmer with a 69. I suppose my question to you, Mike, to kick this all off is Selwyn Cobbo. So his last three scores are 85, 79, now 131. Is he a season-long hold for owners, or would you be selling round 15 when he peaks for Melbourne? It's something that Timmy and I have talked over a couple of weeks for. He's going to hold him for the season. Do you think for owners he's a keeper?
Yeah, I think so. At this point in time, I don't think you've got a lot of consistent centre wings at the moment. And the reason I'm shaking my head with Cobbo is because I actually sold him when he 2 rounds ago for Tass, and then Tass become null and void. And then since selling him, he went 85 and 79, and then he's now got that 130. And I sold him for 380k. So it's a stinger, man. It's a stinger, but at the same time, with the money he's making, and the Broncos are playing some good footy, man, even against some top sides. So you hold him, keep him in there, and he's going to be a crucial number for that last buy round. The best part is, with a lot of owners dropping off him, he's at 18% owned now. I think he's too expensive to jump on. He doesn't have a proven pedigree yet of over a long duration of the season. So that's a tough part, I guess. If you're one of those 18% owners, it'd be hard to get him now. I wouldn't go anywhere near spending over 550 on Cobbo when I see a lot of other valued options for that buy.
Yeah, and I think the thing also with him is people who don't own him are going to be looking at his first 3 or 4 scores and going, if I bring him in for that price, could he get those couple of scores, and it could really be a trade that burns me. And that's perfect for if you are a Cobbo owner, because let's be honest, you've got the 3 last scores, you probably should have been playing him, but you're going to get a massive price rise, even if he scores a couple of 40s. So, I mean, you're laughing if you're an owner. If you're a non-owner, I do agree. I wouldn't be jumping on at this stage, but as for owners, hold on to him as long as you can. There might be a point later in the season where Broncos might not keep up the consistency, but until then, ride that wave. Which brings us into the lows. Corey Paix, I know a lot of people brought him in a couple of weeks ago. He scored 27, and Randall had a 28. On the Newcastle side of the ball, we had Kalen Ponga with a 78. I heard his name being whispered a couple of times in amongst the groups when Tommy Turbo went down. Mikey, is Ponga going to be a potential trade-in for someone like Turbo, or is it because of Origin and Newcastle's lack of attack that he's not really an option to bring in?
It's an interesting one. I think the week to do it was this week. I know obviously Tommy owners are going to be looking at, a replacement. And I think I would kind of look for a buy-friendly player if I was going to do it with this point of the season. So, look, I know one guy that I took to a SuperCoach who brought him in last week, and for that price point, kicking goals, 487, man, that's a good trade. Even with this week, he's going to be priced around the 500k, and they do play the Warriors next week, but then after that they face the Panthers. So the run's a bit mixed. It's just, look, we know what he's like with injury, and as you said, Max, you said it perfectly, coming up to that origin period, I'd be a little nervous. I think why people will be a bit more keen, though, are the lack of options. There's a lack of genuine fullback options other than your main guys like Tedesco and Hines and co. So because just a lot of them are injured, and the rest of them are kind of like, mm. So yeah, it's interesting to see what people are going to do, because I wouldn't know where to start.
Yeah, and that's the huge thing is, and we were talking about last week, and we were thinking about if Turbo was out for a couple of weeks, would you bring him out, and who would you bring him in for? There's not that clear cut trade in with Paps out, and especially Hind being switched up to halfback, and in most people's halfback slot there isn't that rock solid fullback. So very interesting. But I mean, I think with Newcastle's lack of attack, I want to see Newcastle play a bit better footy consistently before I get someone like Ponga in, and especially with Origin, we all know it's a brutal game. Ponga, it could easily have repercussions into ongoing weeks, so I'd hold off. Maybe if he was going to play that round 13 bye, or if he didn't play Origin, I'd be keen. But obviously, we know he's an absolute star for Queensland, so no bueno for Maxi. Which brings us on to the next game: Tigers and Bulldogs. Good game to start off, kick off the Friday night. We had Ken Mamalo with a 90, Joe Offengalway backing up his great score from last week with an 88. We had Mr. Kiraz, the Cheapie, who played a fantastic game. I mean, we all knew it was coming. He's an absolute star of the future. JMK with an 88 and Pangai with a 71. The key thing is, I think, for everyone this week, Kiraz looking fantastic, looking like a rock-solid Cheapie, probably the best Cheapie out of all four that are potential bring trade-ins over the next couple of weeks. Do you reckon he's going to be the most traded in this week, and will you be bringing him in, Mikey?
Yeah, it's a no-brainer. That trade's got to be locked in. What adds to his appeal is he plays that bye round, but not only that, his work rate's so good. He made quite a few errors at the start. He was just shaking it off a bit of the nerves, but we got 56 last time in mostly base, and this time we get 88 with some attacking stats. So that's perfect. And if that's what his work rate's going to be like and what he can do, I'll happily play him each week, even over guys like Suwali and that, because that's what you're kind of looking for. A 40 to 50 in base with a try, you're looking at 70 plus. So he's going to make a stack of money. It's just now, does the coach keep him on the wing without a car back? And I know everyone's saying yes, but let's wait and see, because Ockenball's been awful. They've been chopping and changing. To be honest, if I was a Bulldogs coach, I should be dropping Averillo and Ockenball this week. So I think that's going to be good for Kiraz. And even if not, Adokar's going to play Origin, so surely he comes onto the wing. But with how he played, I can't see him not getting named. But we've seen stranger things happen.
Yeah, and it's all up in the air with the obviously the standing coach being there. So I think as long as he's named, regardless, or in the starting side, he's going to be the most traded in this week. We've got a couple of comments coming in. Mark Law's got 114. Fairly happy, mate. You should be absolutely stoked. That's going to kick you up into a great position. Lockie Harris said he got a 1064, sitting around the 4K mark. Hopefully green arrows. Mate, I'm sitting at around 6K, and you'll be definitely getting green arrows with a score like that. And then we've got, I think this is one of Jake's mates, Joshua Camplin, saying Mikey's a fraud.
Yeah.
I will have none of that disrespect towards my boy Mikey on my podcast.
It's fine. He's just a little, because he was giving me his shit in the first 5 rounds of how badly I was ranked, and I've come back. I'm ahead of him now. I had a look last week, so unlucky, mate.
Perfect response. Which brings us on. I mean, the second talking point of this game, just to finish off on the Bulldogs Tigers game, is obviously brought in Luke Garner this week. For someone like me who's looking at potential trade-ins for this week, and he's going to get that dual second rower centre wing status. I understand he doesn't play round 13, but would you be looking at bringing someone like him in, or do you reckon last week was a week and you've kind of hit it too late?
So the reason why I did it last week is I thought it to myself. I said, if I'm right and my gut's right and he has a good score, which 81 was a good score, I was like, would I want to bring him in for 400k with all these other options looming with a buy? And that's what kind of turned me off him. So I think it's not a bad choice, because his base was actually pretty good. He's definitely underpriced. Even like you take out those attacking stats and he scored around 48. That's not too bad. Like, you know what I mean? Especially if you're going to be playing him in center wing. With some of these injuries, I don't think I'm going to be able to make that happen. But he could be a crucial number for that last buy. And with him on that edge, he's not used how Tuolangi was. He's not used as like a block player. And the good thing in that is Garner played 80 minutes and Tuolangi didn't take any minutes off him. And he played barely any minutes at all. So, yeah, I wouldn't stop anyone from buying him, but I definitely, he's at 1% owned, and I think with all these cheapies, he's going to stay as a pod, surely.
I mean, I'm looking at him because I've always had a thing for the second rowers who are available in the centre wing position. It's the kind of the staples of Supercoach evolved before the attacking stats, really start to kick in with the six agains. And I always like to have a couple of them in my side, which is why I kind of regret selling someone like a Bo Firma. And that's why I'm kind of holding on to someone like a Ewan Aitken. So for me, he might be a trade-in, but I mean, 1%. That's why you're the pod master, Mikey.
Yeah, when I get them right, I get them right, but I wish I could get it right all the time. And I guess an important note to make before we move on is the Bulldogs with this. I know they scored a bit of points, but if you're looking for some buy numbers, TPJ had a good performance, and then also if you had a spare 5'8" spot free, Matt Burden 270 plus scores now 2 weeks in a row, and he's an affordable price. So whether or not you think he'll get one of those center spots, I think he'll miss out. But yeah, some Bulldog options now coming through that I think you could take a bit of a punt on. So just keep an eye on those guys next week.
Yeah, and I think if Burton doesn't make Origin, he's going to be one to look at. It's tough when you have Cleary and Hines, but let's see if he makes a spot. You can kind of bring him in. He might be a little bit of a pod for that round.
Yeah, he's a 5'8" only, so yeah. So that's what makes it tough.
5'8" only. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
And a lot of people have got Milf, and then not Milf, Walker,
Munster and Walker. Yeah.
So it's a bit of a situation, but I mean, you could go worse than to plug him in for round 13, and absolutely the shout on TPJ. Every time he scores without being suspended, I'm more encouraged. So I think he'll be coming into my side either this week or next week. Yeah,
I'm going to leave it right to the last minute. I think if I was going to bring in TPJ for around that price, I really want to wait till before round 13, because if he's not playing that round 13, then I'm not interested in him at all. It'd be a waste of a trade.
Yeah, well, I mean, if you said TPJ would have a try assist and a line break assist and still score 71 a couple of years ago, I would have said absolutely not. But, I mean, yeah, he's not doing anything too special at the moment, even with that amazing try assist he had on Friday, which brings us to the second game of the week. Sucks for me, both as a Manly fan and a Tom Trbojevic lover, to see him go down. I suppose we'll kick it off with that. Just from a non-Supercoach perspective, I always like to tap into your brain. You've got a great rugby league brain. He's obviously a generational talent, and this injury was kind of just an unlucky. It wasn't the same old hamstring, but is this just him, or as in is it his body not for Origin or not for NRL standards? And is he going to keep on having these types of injuries, or is it a matter of it's just purely unluck with this type of stuff?
I think he's got a lot of bad luck, but at the same time, let's have a look at him. Like if you had a spreadsheet in front of you of all of Tommy and how many games he's played and if he's completed a full season. He hasn't. I can't recall the last time he's gone through a whole season, and he just, even if it's not that hamstring, he just keeps on picking up these other injuries. I'm starting to believe that it's not just a coincidence, but I guess going to a Supercoach perspective, that definitely makes it for me to give him these days. And I guess we just got to take the positives. I guess his average is going to be down for next year, but at the same time, it's you just feel for the bloke because he's honestly one of the best players in the game, and it just sucks that he's always dealing with these injuries because we love to see him when he's in turbo mode.
100%. Well, the key talking point in this one for me, we obviously had Garrick with the score of 100.
Some big scores in this one.
Through, which with some huge ones. Also, you had Penasini with 97, Madison with a 91. My question comes in the form of Ola Kawatu, Ruben Garrick, Josh Schuster. Josh Schuster obviously scored low with a 28. If you are an owner of any of these, are they holds without Turbo and for the season, or do you reassess after round 13? And for someone like me who doesn't have a Josh Schuster but is looking at him potentially for round 13, is he a trade in, or would you hold off and see how Manly are without Turbo next week?
Look, I think they've been pretty average with Tommy the past couple of weeks, and this happened before when he was out for a little bit, and I said to myself, I was like, damn, is this going to impact Ola Kalatu because I just bought him, and it didn't. Like, I find Cherry Evans steers the ship a bit more when he's out, and that's good for someone like Ola Kalatu because he seems to just score all these tries, and a lot of the time it's when Tom's not out, but I get what you're saying with the presence that he has, and what does that mean for Garrick? Does he go back to fullback? If he goes back to fullback as a non-owner, I'm going to be trying to scrambling to get in. We'll talk about the Talakai injury later, but that'd be one trade I'll lock in this week if I want to skip Peoples. But yeah, look, a lot of these Manly guys, I think ones like Cherry Evans, Garrick, and Ola Kalatu, like I think those three, it's not going to impact him as much, but maybe some of these center wings like Tupelotu and that young center Kula, like it might impact them. So yeah, you're right. It is a bit of a wait and see. Same with Schuster, but we've got one more game to have a look at them. Maybe we see how they go.
Yeah, and with that 28 for Schuster, you can hold off this week and kind of reassess. He's one that I'm looking at because I think he always has an attacking flair to him. And even with Tommy out, they'll probably get the game plan more involved around him and obviously Ola Kawatu and Cherry. So let's see whether that is something that plays in his favour. Another talking point, Ryan Madison, 91, with no attacking stats. He a keeper?
100%. Madison, we were talking about him on the Tuesday pod. He just does so much, and it sucks now because looking at him, he's got a very low break even. What a trade, Maxi. I love that trade. He's going to be over 700K in hard, kind of like Papali'i. Like everyone's now bringing Papali'i in because they just have to get him. And 4 weeks ago, if you got him before him, you were kind of a bit ahead. And this is going to be the same story with Madison. Like, yeah, I don't think he makes the Origin. We got news today that Cameron Murray looks like he's going to be okay for round 12, which puts him back in the Origin arena. So that's an extra second row there. So that's going to have SuperCoach ramifications. But yeah, Madison, like you're right. If he doesn't play Origin that last bye or the second bye round, he's going to be someone you want if you can keep churning this out with those stats. But I'm a bit worried of how Brad Arthur's rotating these forwards. Like Papali'i, back to the middle. It's like he scored all these tries on the edge and he puts him in the middle to start. Like I don't understand that. He's the informed second row on the comp right now. Oh, yep, let's chuck him in the middle. So yeah, I don't entirely trust Brad Arthur either. So and Nathan Brown on the bench, like I could see him just switching it around and Madison's minutes going down, but you've got to plug him on the radar for sure.
Yeah, and I mean, there's always a risk of concussion with someone like Maddo. So, yeah, I mean, 700K is a lot to pay for someone like him, and no round 13 coverage. It's going to be a tough one. I mean, as an owner, I'm happy, but as a non-owner, I don't know whether I'd make the move this week. Which brings us on to the first Saturday game, Dragons and Warriors. Good scores for your pod pick, SJ with a 96. Looked absolutely fantastic. Vintage SJ form right there. We had Lomax with a 92. He was going to be my alternative trade in. It was either going to be Lomax or Madison. And Lomax is 1 point better, but I just think, Madison's a keeper at that position. Lomax is a potential 19th, 20th man. Dragons fluctuating in performances. So, I mean, it still played off well for me. We had Cody Ramsey with a 94, Viliami Vailea with a 60, so paid back and rewarded those people who held him for as long as they've held him. I suppose my talking point goes back to Lomax, which is I obviously we've got round 13 coming up, and I don't want to detract for that. But if he doesn't make Origin in one of the centre spots, well, firstly, do you think he makes Origin in one of those centre spots? And if not, would you be picking him up for the round 17 bye?
100% picking him up for the round 17 bye. I think he's someone that you could grab. And the important thing with the second round bye that people forget is you want to grab players that you can hold. Where a lot of the ones we bring for 13, we look to trade out to then get you a number. Because if you don't do that, then you won't have even numbers. So yeah, I don't think he'll get picked. He could. I reckon he's close, but surely with the way Crichton's been playing, he's got to be a lock-in for one centre spot. I have a funny feeling too. I know I don't agree with this, but don't count out Jack Wyden getting that centre spot, and then them plug that way they can fit Nico Hines in. Like I just can't see Brad Fittler leaving out Jack Wyden when he's been playing good club footy, but I just wouldn't have him anywhere near that Origin side. But Brad Fittler thinks otherwise. So yeah, I think Zach Lomax would be unlucky to miss out, but he wouldn't go Australian that side. I just think maybe he's a year short. I even think they'd choose Campbell Graham over him.
Yeah, and a lot of people are saying Stags is on the cusp too. So
Exactly. It could probably Crichton and Stags, but it'd be between those two and Wyden for sure. I forgot about Stags.
And the good thing about having someone like Whiten in the centres is then it frees up the 14 spot, which you can bring someone like a Nico on the bench at 14.
Yeah, exactly. The main thing I took out of this Warriors one is they're another team that we're going to look for with the bye. Kind of spewing I didn't do that Sean Johnson trade now because 96 with a 10 break even, that's also another good score because I was going to go Snyder to him, but at the same time, we didn't cover too much on it in the first game. Ezra Mann played awesome. If he can somehow keep Gamble out of a spot, then he's going to be his money would go up at round 14 and he'd be a must-have at round 14. So maybe not getting Johnson can save me later. Also Talatau Moan, I was forced into playing him this week. It was either him or thing, and can't believe he scored 83. I couldn't believe it. I was just hoping for a 40. So to the people that have held him, he went all the way down to 210. And with a -8 break even, he's going to be at 350 with another really low break even. So he's just one guy that I can't believe is making this cash. So I guess that's a good thing. And he's now looking like a general play option. He just looks like he's getting better as the rounds go on. And he's just, look how many tries he got in this game. He's just becoming more of a dominant playmaker for the Dragons. So very interesting hold, that one.
Yeah, and the thing about him also is, when I looked at your side this week and I saw that you benched Crichton and you played Talatau Moan, I was so puzzled. But you are absolutely right. He's looking much better, and I don't think he loses that spot anytime soon, especially with the improvements he's made week on week. So, maybe a potential round 17 purchase to bring him in.
Yeah, well, Angus Crichton, I just couldn't find a way to fit him with how bad. I've got a very good pack, so because I've got a good pack, my centers are so crap. So I'm forced into playing two of the cheapie kind of guys from the start still. So I didn't have a choice. I wish I could have played Angus Crichton, but hey, it worked out better for me in this case.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, and look, it wasn't an easy game for Angus, and so you just never know with these type of things. It's not the worst bench in the world, but I was just puzzled when I saw that Amon.
Yeah, I thought anyone would, even just playing Amon over some of those other guys. But I just think the Warriors are pretty dog shit at the moment, so I like anyone against the Warriors.
Yeah, I think that's a good general analysis right there. Which brings us to the second game, Cowboys and Storm. For those who thought Cowboys were potentially just, fading out and it wasn't going to last for the whole season, they played absolutely fantastic. And from a Supercoach perspective, domination around the park. We had Nanai with a 91, Robson with an 89. I suppose the biggest talking point of this one is Jeff Robson. Reece Robson. We discussed him on last week's podcast. And Tim and I had mixed feelings on him, kind of saying, is it a stepping stone? Is he too expensive? Are you going to want him long term? He scored 67, 83, and now an 89. Is he a trader for round 13 for Randall?
This was the week to do it. Sabs and Jake, if they backflip, which I think they did, they both brought him this week, which was a great trade. Because I got Cotter, I was like, okay, I've chosen Cotter. I'm going to stay away from him. But he's got a break even of 16. He'll go close to 600k this week. So I'm not sure if I could do it. I think it's a week late, but his looks great. And I was worried with his tough run at how he was going to go. But playing 80 minutes, man, and he's always kind of reminded me of a Damien Cook style player when Cook was a bit younger. So only in 1% of teams, and I think even after this week's trades, you'd only be under 5%. So he's a great pod. I just think, I couldn't do it for 600k. When there's all these other options out there.
Yeah, I mean, that's my kind of sentiment too, especially with someone, we've obviously got the Wolford coming in as a cheapie or a potential cheapie. It's a tough one, especially. I mean, for the people who trade him, well done. But I think if you haven't traded him this week, you've missed the boat. Which brings us on to our bads, and this kind of goes into one of our questions, which was Jason Taumalolo. He was looking like a lock for round 13. I was looking to bring him in this week. Obviously, moved off him because of the lower score and his price and coming down a little bit. He scored a 16. We've also got the Hammer with 11, Coates with a 16, and I suppose the key concern is if you had Lolo, where would you be going this week? The question here is to Matto or David Clemmer. If you've got all the other round 13 coverage, forwards, would you be looking to move or switch to Jules and go to a Matto or a Clem?
Yeah, I think they're both good. Like in that case, Lolo's going to be priced back to near where he kind of started, which sucks. But if you got the money to go up to Matto, I'd 100% do that one for sure, and kind of look towards your next buy. But it's just tough because a lot of the second rows going into the first buy are going okay. Like Kickout's going, he's going okay, and then Olakau'atu scored pretty poor this week, but has gone all right. And I think they're two of your best second row options. Maybe if you've got enough jewels and you can get someone like a Garrick or a Joey Manu, I'd probably looking to do that. But yeah, it sucks. The thing is, Lolo was probably a Banks number for most of these guys for the buy round, so I'd be wanting to replace him with another buy round number. That's just how I look at it. But yeah, it's a sad one.
Yeah, and I have the same sentiment too. Like, I brought in Matto, but I think we're getting so close to round 13. You just bring in a round 13 by. There's plenty of them to bring in. We've obviously discussed it. Even if you have to bring in someone like a Kickout and you don't have him, go for it. I'd go that over Clem or Matto. I think you look to round 17 after round 13 goes by, and obviously someone like a Kickout. I mean, even Olakau'atu, I mean, they're kind of difference makers in that round 13 that can go high and bring up a lot of ranks. So I'd go them. But good question, JC Charles. Second question on this game is Harry Grant, Cameron Munster. Obviously, Storm haven't looked their best. People thought that this was going to be a way more competitive game, but the last 2 weeks they've just looked, I would say, quite average. Is this a case of just having Jerome Hughes and Ryan Pappenhausen out versus a really informed side versus Cowboys? Or are we starting to get a bit concerned about Storm assets?
Look, it's a strange one because Storm don't lose back-to-back games, and I get that you've taken out Pappenhausen and Hughes, but I didn't think it'd have this much of an impact because you still have some very good quality players in this Storm side, two being Harry Grant and Cameron Munster, which are arguably the best in their respective positions. So to still come away with a victory, a loss like this, that's unstorm-like. Like something else at play here, but yeah, look, I guess if you take Pappenhausen was probably the most informed player in the comp this year so far, and Hughes has been great too. So you take if I like out of Penrith, if you took out Cleary and Edwards, I know we'd struggle as well, and so would most of your sides. But yeah, it's making it interesting. It's just being the capability of these Storm players. You could never not put them in your side. Like I wouldn't ever not play these guys each week while I have them, and they're long-term holds. But yeah, it's interesting. I guess with some of these underscores, might bring down a few of these Storm players' prices ready for the next buy round, like Brendan Smith and all those other kind of guys. So yeah, keep them on your radar. But yeah, the Cowboys, man, credit where credit's due. Looking forward to Penrith versus Cowboys next week. It's going to be a thriller.
Yeah, it's going to be an absolutely fantastic game, which I doubt many people would have thought would be an absolute, competitive one at the start of the season. I mean, Cowboys have just absolutely shocked it, which is funny because everyone used to joke about Todd Payton, and obviously for Supercoach purposes, they used to laugh at it a bit, but I don't think anyone thought he was as good of a coach as he's proving to be, and just the turnaround the Cowboys have done this year is incredible and shows kind of why he took that job over staying with the Warriors. I think he's just done a fantastic job up there, and as he said, credit's where credit's due. And with regards to the Storm assets, absolutely. Xavier Coates going to come down a lot in price. We all know he's a player that gets on a run and can go up in price a lot and can score, a couple of hundred. So keep an eye on him. Also, you've got Brandon Smith. Even look at Jerome Hughes when he's back. If you've got a halfback slot for round 17, might be a good one to kind of bring in, potential hold for the rest of the season. Bring us on to the last game for Saturday, which was a great game for Penrith. We had Jerome Luai with a 102, JFH with an 89, Cleary with an 84, Angus Crichton with a 74, Nat Butcher with a 69. The first talking point of this one is Nat Butcher. A lot of people are keen on the bloke, scoring pretty decently, not setting anything too amazing, but for the round 13 bye, you could go worse than to bring someone like him in. Would you bring him in this week, Mikey, or would you be waiting to see what the team looks like with Tupanua back in before you make that decision?
Well, it looked like before that was going to happen, he was going to play lock. I do prefer him 80 on the edge, but look, his work rate's just so great. He was another one I was tossing up over Garner, was to bring in Butcher, but I wasn't too fancied on getting another Rooster against the Panthers, as I did think Panthers could, put a number on the Chooks. But yeah, 69. We saw what he did early in the year when he had 80 minutes. He can score some tries. I don't mind him as a purchase. He's come down a lot in price. He'll go back up close to 400K. I think you could do worse of trades than that. So definitely on my radar. But I think you'd have to move this week with those two higher scores in his rolling average now.
Yeah. I'm personally not going to go there. I just don't. I brought him in a couple of years back when he was starting, and I think I didn't go. I don't know who it was. It might have been someone that went really incredible that year. I'm pretty sure, but I didn't go them, and I went Nat Butcher over him, and I just think he's that type of. He hasn't got that many attacking stats in him, and I think maybe go with someone like Higau, which has got I know the price is a lot more with someone like Higau, but I definitely go him over Butcher for sure. It's only if you haven't got the funds, go to someone like a Nat Butcher. Joey Manu, popular move seems to be, and there's a lot of questions coming in about who to go turbo to, and maybe go to someone like a Joey Manu. He only scored around a 40-ish this week. Would you be bringing him in this week versus the Sharks, who just played a pretty decent game, or would you be waiting a week and bringing him in after that, relatively high break even comes down a bit?
Yeah, I think you could wait a week, but I'm not too worried about the Sharks. Like, Sharks are all right today, but yeah, I still think it'll be a close game next week. And the thing is, if you're going to get Manu, I think you just got to be willing to get him and hold him for the rest of the season. Just looking at it too, with he's going to play fullback in that first bye round, and the same with Ruben Garrick. So I think for that bye round, I have neither at the moment, but I want at least one of those guys in my centre wing, because I know whichever one I choose, I'll hold them for the rest of the year, and they're both really big captaincy options in that bye round, or VC options. So I think that's why it's important to have them, because we've seen what they can both do at fullback. So. Look, you could jump this week, but yeah, I'd probably be tempted to wait an extra week, let his price come down, and then reassess at how these other buy options go in that week, and you can make sure you utilize those three trades to the maximum.
Yeah. He's one of those players who he's going to come back and probably end up being keeper in centre wing position. So I'm probably going to hold off. I just don't know about the Sharks, but. I mean, we always change our decisions. I mean, I want to have a bit of a deeper look into him and his scores previously. And obviously, I mean, the Titans did score quite a few points against the Sharks, and the Sharks looked a bit lackluster that second half. So, whilst broadly speaking, they looked pretty good, there's still some opportunities there. And I think the Roosters' performance against Penrith really encouraged me about their ability to compete. I know they got outclassed, but at spots they actually did look really good, despite the score at the end. The negatives from that were Brian To'o with a 29. He's someone who I'm going to be looking at bringing in as soon as round 13 is over. He's 620 now, big break even coming into play. In the next couple of weeks, he'll come down probably, you'd think, to around 550, 520 mark if we're lucky. He's kind of the ones which I'm going to prioritize him over the round 17 buys. Are you looking at him too, Mikey? And or are you looking at after Origin?
Surprisingly, my answer is probably not what you'd expect. No, I'm not really looking at him. He will always be on my radar because we know his capabilities. But although I think he's doing well in actual NRL, I think him with the sides being switched, yeah, I just think he's not as relevant because unfortunately Stephen Crichton gets a lot of ball. He's a hog, and therefore To'o's not scoring as many tries. And because he's on that side too. Like even in this game, you just see a lot of that attacking goes all down the left, and that's also impacting it. So I don't think we'll see those kind of scores we did last year. So I want to kind of wait till he gets down to that 500k mark. Yeah, definitely getting someone that you could potentially run to the end of the season. But at this stage of how it looks, I think I'd rather take like a low max or a round 17 buy player. And I've already got 4 Penrith players. So, yeah, like it's going to be a headache after this buy round to what you do with some of these guys like Tago and May. I definitely think I'll probably keep one, sell the other, but all those will come into play and that will decide whether or not I get taught as well.
Yeah, and I mean, after everyone was going Tago out that week, and obviously he came through and scored pretty well. I'm hesitant to trade any of them out, which kind of means you are right with that. Having two, I mean, you can kind of have a few too many Penrith players, especially with Taylor May and Isaac Tago. So maybe that's something that plays into the decision making there about how many have you got, and is it you're going to go someone like a Tago to To'o, which might be a little sideways at times depending on the way that they're playing. Which brings us on to the second last game of the week. Rabbitohs versus Raiders. Raiders absolutely coming out and having some fantastic last couple of performances. I don't know what's going on there, but they're absolutely smashing it. Which is translating to some good Supercoach scores for individuals like Hudson Young, who scored an 87, and Josh Papali'i with an 83. A big talking point for this week was Zach Wolford starting at the hooker position, looking like a perfect option to trade Chris Randall to for the round 13 buys. He did score 35 in 27 minutes. Is he a trap, Mikey, or are you a viable trade option bringing in this week?
I think he's a trap, but I don't think he'll make enough for you to do anything else with that hooker position. The key thing too is he got a bit hurt, or he got winded. And then after he got winded, he didn't come back on, where last week we saw him come back on for a little cameo at the end. So maybe he wasn't 100%, like he could have had a problem with his ribs. Nothing come out of it, but just looking at the game, he got pretty hurt. Starling come on straight after he got winded, and then we didn't see him return. It could just be what Ricky wanted to do, but I guess in positive news, we saw Adam Elliott come back. Adam Elliott played lock, which means I'll probably keep this hooker rotating going, but he's got a try assist with a line break assist in both these matches now, which is what is concerning because when they don't not there, you're looking at a floor of about 20, lower even, and that's not worth the extra number for the buy round, and the money will only be a really short-term swing if you can't keep up the attacking stats. So yeah, I'm not. I was interested, but I'm not now.
Yeah, and I mean, it's a bit concerning as to whether I go. I mean, I might just go Kiraz in and skip on Wolford. I mean, Adam Elliott, for the people who brought him in a couple of weeks ago. I mean, he looks like he's got a negative break even, so he'll make a bit more coin. So hold him to round 13, but get him out immediately after 38 without trying to try assist this week, which is decent, but nothing special. So you want to get him out of your side as soon as round 13 is over.
I've got one, Maxi. Jordan Rapana. So I did mention him briefly on the podcast this week. I had a little segment about talking about a lot of undervalued players, and it's actually quite funny that all those guys that I spoke about actually had a really good Supercoach week. So undervalue is definitely the way to go. And he could be a sneaky option for that buy round. So break even of 58 coming into this one, and he managed to jag a 60. So you could pick up Rapana from under 400k, and he's got me a bit interested. Maybe I'd like to see another week of him, but the Raiders are starting to look good, and they're looking like now they could finish around that cusp of the top 8. So yeah, Hudson Young's another one. If you've got a spare 500k, maybe you could do a Taumalolo to a pod in Hudson Young, because Hudson Young, he just seems to score a lot of tries. That hole in that line that he runs suits Supercoach. So Rapana and Young are definitely on my radar. More so Rapana, because I am in need of some centre wings. because mine are dog shit. So, they're on my radars.
Not bad punts at all. I mean, Hudson Young, I mean, I'm not as hot on as I am a Rapana after looking into him. I mean, they have Eels this week, followed by the Roosters, obviously understrength Roosters in round 13, Broncos in round 14, but they have the Knight and then St. George in rounds 15 and 16. He's not a terrible option, and especially you can play him in round 13. You'll have some centers to kind of switch in and out. But if you're someone who's got a pretty decent center wing position, you can always bring him in, play him on matchup. But in rounds 15 and 16, he's that type of player who could score a couple of 70s. And even his score this week, I mean, yes, you had a line break and I believe, try assist, a line break. Yeah, but besides that, I mean, 68, you're probably like 40-ish in base. It's not bad.
For that
and
price.
He's always that Supercoach favourite of all. You know, it's definitely could go worse than that. And the price is fantastic. Yeah. Oh, him and Joey Leilua. I remember that game where they both turned up, and I think it was one of them got 170, one of them got 130, and I had both of them, and I felt like I was winning Supercoach.
Owning Rapana in those days where he went crazy. I even remember one where he went so big against the Panthers, and it was a big thing for me to ever captain anyone against the Panthers. And yeah, I remember it was the one time I was really happy that someone had a baller against them. Just a quick question to you, Max. You brought in Trent Peoples this week. I'm not so sold on him. I was more so obviously thinking now I grabbed Karaz, who I think is more of a priority. Are you worried about Peoples now that with the news that Cam Murray is going to be back? He could get pushed back to the bench. They might drop Jairo to front row and Cam Murray, like he could keep it, but he made quite a few mistakes today, and I thought he was okay. He's now got a score of 68 and 36. So if he can keep an 80-minute role, then perfect. But what if he starts to now drop minutes because, Cam Murray's back? What are you thinking?
I think with the Cam Murray, I think South will bring him off the bench if he comes back round 12, just to kind of show he's getting back. I don't think they'll flog him, especially the round before Origin. He'll just want to come back and get ease back in. And I think probably it will affect people's minutes. But I mean, round 13, Murray's going to be out. Round 14, and going forward, over the Origin period, Murray's going to be out, Jairo's going to be out. He's not a bad hold, but would I be bringing him in? I don't think I would. I think if you didn't bring him in this week, you hold off. He's not that fire cheapie that I think we all thought. And I think that was always the case when everyone was quoting the stats that he had in the lower grades was, but it's not NRL and he's only played one game and got a 68. Yes, he had a fantastic game, but is it going to keep up? So, I mean, I'm an owner. I'm not exactly happy with him. If you don't have someone like a Kiraz and you can only go, say, a Kiraz, a Trent Peoples or a Wolford, and you can only go one of them, I definitely would rank him probably as in Kiraz, Peoples, and then Wolford. But if you can avoid him, I'd say he's a bit of an avoid. I don't like him also playing on the edge. I just think he's better served when he came off on the debut and where he played. But kind of a long-winded answer of if you absolutely need a cheapie and you've got Kiraz, then yeah, go him. If not, then avoid. Is that kind of your sentiment?
Yeah, I think more so what resonated with me is last week on the podcast and we were talking with Timmy and Timmy sometimes just skips these cheapies and he did that with Ben Travojevic and look how it worked out for him. I think that this might be one where I might wait it out and rather than getting Peoples this week, I could grab like a Garrick or just target another buy-round player. And then if I'm bringing Karaz and one of them in, that's another 2 for that number and meaning the week before bye week. I probably don't have to make many trades for that buy round. I could just sit and have a look, but it also sets me up in a position to go, okay, I can try and field 14 or 15 and go hard and burn my trades. But it just gives me that power of options. But look, 36 and 80 minutes, he's got money to make, but I wouldn't mind not grabbing him next week because of all these other options. And then I'd be willing to pay an extra 100K for him if he's keeping his minutes and going crazy. But I just really don't like the look of the Souths at the moment. They're just constantly disappointing. Like I own Cody Walker, and right now that's enough for me to own. They're looking really disappointing, but like we said with the Storm earlier, hopefully that means we get some juicy options for the next buy round.
Yeah, and I mean the thing about Peoples is I'm also thinking about, well, if I didn't have him, is the Isaac Tass kind of cheapie that most people got on. Again, dropped back to the bench. He scored a 1 today. The last thing I would want is to have that happen to Tass and then bring in Peoples and that happen to him. So I just don't know what's going to happen with the side, especially with the last couple of lackluster performances. Someone like a Bellamy, you kind of know roughly, the guns are going to keep their positions and stuff, but the cheapies are always with these sides kind of a bit of a toss-up. I'm looking at people like Taran Wishart. His performance wasn't fantastic this week again, which is 2 in a row that he hasn't played that fantastic. Does he get shafted out? I'm looking at, Peoples. I just don't know where it's going to land. I think he'll ultimately, keep kind of those 30s to 40s up and play those. He might even start. But as for this week, I wouldn't be bringing him in, which is kind of a bit of a shocker. And the thing about this also is we need to consider is we need to find a way to get these guys out or nuffed. And I've brought in so many cheapies, and looking through them, I don't know whether it's worth 100, 150K to bring someone like Peoples in with limited trades. If you've been smart with bringing in your cheapies, you probably have the ability to kind of skip someone like Peoples. So don't, and it kind of goes back to my previous point, which is don't be bringing someone like him in unless you absolutely have to, unless you're going someone like a Garrick in and you need to make that cash, and you've got someone like obviously you've got Kiraz in, but kind of skip on that. And I mean, it makes it interesting for the second buy round. I mean, we'll see what happens when Latrell's back, but people like Damien Cook, he scored well today with an 88, which is great for South. But if you're considering holding on to both him and Grant, I know there's a couple of people who've got him and Grant. I just don't know whether if they keep these performances up, he's going to score above 60s regularly. So someone to think about there, which brings us on to our last game of the week, which was played in some absolutely diabolical weather. We had the Gold Coast Titans versus the Cronulla Sharks. The key winners in that, Connor Tracy with a 79, Nico Hines returned to form with a 78. That did include a absolute joke of a sin bin. 5 seconds to go in the game, which I don't think was necessary. Lockie Miller came through with that 77. Yeah, I mean, look, we're all captainers of him, but I think he would have upgraded to about 90, 95 with that. But obviously gets a sin bin and then kicks us down in the mud a little bit.
Yeah, it was looking gloomy in the first half. I was like, oh my God, here we go again. I brought in Nico Hines for 2 really average scores and captained him for both. But he come alive in that second half and he really relished it. And with the kind of round it was, I'll take a 78 from the captain. It just sucks that another 35% of super coaches have taken that with you. So, yeah, the 90 to 95 would be better for the guys that went and switched to Cleary. That could have helped catch a bit of ground. But, yeah, in this one, on the other side of the field with the Titans, like they're another buy round for this first one. Not really interested in really anyone from the Titans. Like it's all a bit, ugh. I know if I'm going to bring in someone from the Titans right now for a number, I need to use another trade to get him out. So the only way I'd be getting a Titans trade is if we've got a really good cheapie, but it doesn't look like we have any of those on the horizon.
Yeah, I mean, if you have Beau Fermor, you hold on to him. He's doing all right with nothing special, and I think it's a toss up to see whether he's a keeper or not in the centre wing. I think he can do worse than to have someone like him in there with his attacking stats. The only one I was kind of having a little cheeky look at was Jaden Campbell, especially with Turbo out, and I mean he's not priced particularly at a fantastic point. He's at 468K. 56 break even, scored, I believe, around 50-ish.
He scored 60, yeah. 60.
You can go worse than to bring someone like him in for around 13. I just, again, with trades, I just don't know whether it's worth bringing like someone like him in. He still seems undersized for NRL and probably be a gun in a couple of years' time. But I just don't know whether I'd pull it just for the sake of a round 13 number.
Yeah, especially with the Tom thing, I think the way you got to look at it is you're going to want to get Pappenhausen back as soon as he comes back. That's going to be on everyone's top priority list. And when he comes back, so if you just bring in somebody like him, for example, then that's another trade you've got to use to get that guy out. Like you're spending a lot of trades in the fullback. So if I could make a way where I could bring Karaz in this week and then maybe shift someone else to there just for short-term period to help you over the buy, like a fullback, I would look into doing that just because you know that you're going to use a trade from Pappenhausen. That's obviously if you don't own the other guys killing it in that position. But I think you just got to look at trade management. Like I know I keep using these trades and I keep saying this advice. Maybe I need to start taking it. But trade management is going to be huge with COVID this year. So, yeah, I think just keep that in the back of the mind.
Yeah, for sure. It all happens every year when, I mean, for us, we don't, you subs know we don't tend to save too many of our trades these days. We're not the kind of the most. Yeah, it's hard. You just want to bring in all the cheapies, all the good players, and you know with I mean, Savs has started a lot better than both you and I have, but we're both trying to catch up and get up to the obviously the top thousands and keep going up there. So it's a little bit harder. My other question to you is on the Cronulla side of the football. A lot of people are talking about Ronaldo Mulatalo as a potential keeper. Obviously, leads the line, the comp in line breaks. Can go huge, especially when you got Nico Hines throwing you beautiful float balls. Do you think post round 13, he's someone that you might look at as a bit of a keeper?
Yeah, if I don't manage to go with someone like Garrick in that, like I could save a bit of reserve for Mulatalo. So he scored 70 today, break even of 128. So if you can kind of keep up this scoring, maybe we can get him for 550 to 600k. But yeah, I'd spend 600k on him just because the Sharks can just some weak side this year. The good sides, like he can just break the line and I do like the combo he has with Talakai, which is going to be our next talking points, and maybe this kind of stirs from him. But yeah, I definitely think he'd be a key purchase for that next buy round, and I'd be happy to play him each week, and he'd be a season-long keeper to me. So the best part too, he's only in 4% of teams, so he's very much a pod. But yeah, you got to pay for him.
Yeah, and that's always a bit of a tricky thing with centre wings. But I mean, I'd like to see how it goes round 12. Obviously, that's going to be a big game for the Sharks, and they have looked a bit lackluster at times. So I want to see another good performance from Mulatalo before I commit to spending that amount of money on a centre wing. But fantastic segue into Talakai. So I actually thought, and we started this before in the pre-pod chat, I actually thought he stayed on because the camera panned on after he was down with apparent knee or ankle injury. And he did stay on for a while, but he was limping around, then got taken off around the 68th minute. We don't know the injury kind of news on him, but it doesn't look great when he tries to stay on the field and gets ripped off because the injury is obviously quite bad. If you held on, he's obviously looking like a keeper, but let's just say it's 2 or 3 weeks. Would you pivot off him ASAP?
I think I would. If it's I've got to reassess because maybe I think I've definitely got enough strength in my side to hold him. I was thinking of selling him last week, and the fact I've now dropped a lot of money that I made off him, I'm more reluctant to sell because I thought, hey, I can deal with these 40 to 50s in a center wing with his huge amount of upside. So that'll be a big talking point. I think anything over 4 weeks or anything that puts him out of action for that round 17 buy, he's a sell because I know if I sell him this week, that's how I can get a Garrick or a Manu. So I think that is going to be my biggest tempting point. How much do I want Garrick? And yeah, just seeing what Garrick is doing at the moment, I might just need to grab him. He's going to be my only way to do it without breaking the bank. So I think it'd be okay to sell him if you get a guy like that. But at the same time, we have waited so long for him to get the center wing duel, and it just crushed me to watch 200 or 150 to 200k go out of your savings from him to then also just have to trade him out with that beautiful center wing second row. So, yeah, it's tough. What about you, Maxi? What are your thoughts?
I mean, I'm a non-owner, and I do think he's a keeper. I'm one of those. I'm not one of those salty non-owners who thinks, "Oh, I was right for not going him at 700k." It was just a risk, and I couldn't fit him into my side at that point. I think he's a keeper. I think he's had a couple of iffy games, but he's just such an absolute weapon that I think that they're just going to figure out a way to make sure that they get him ball early, and that you'll have performances like Manly happen a couple of times throughout the season. I think with the injury, I would say, I mean, it didn't look positive, but it's all based on the news. I think if it's a week, you hold him. You definitely don't trade him out. But if it's more than a couple, it's just a general rule. You know, you trade someone like him out. But I mean, for people who held on, who've seen him drop 200K, the way I would be thinking about it wouldn't be, well, I should have traded him out 2 weeks ago. It's you've already made, like, even if you sell him on now, you've made 200, or generally, unless you brought him in when he was 700K, you've made decent coin on him. You know, you cut your losses if he's injured and go trade someone up. You know, obviously there's always a sweet spot with trading these people out. But I mean, on the alternative, you could have traded him out 2 weeks ago and he could have had 2 back-to-back hundreds. So sometimes these things don't play in your favor. But yeah, I mean, it's all contingent on the injury news with him. But I absolutely do think he's a weapon and one that you can hold on your side for the rest of the season. And I think it's also tough if you haven't got him like me. It's tough to kind of bring him in when he's back to full strength. So yeah, obviously some tough decisions to make for super coaches on Talakai this week, and we'll keep in touch with the injury news there. A couple of questions to finish off tonight. So probably the most important one from Michael Carver on Facebook says, who is a must-have for round 13? We've spoken a lot about Garrick on this pod, but sniper teams. Who do you think is a must-have?
Oh, look, I know must-have's a heavy word, but I think, as I said, you want to have one of him or Manu. It's not all about the numbers; it's about the quality. So definitely those kind of guys. I think you want to have one of Kikau or Oloakalatu. I think they're one that you'd want to have. And then kind of looking at it, like it's kind of tough because I feel like the quality in this buy isn't massive. But yeah, those guys that I mentioned are guys that I want to have. One of Cotter and Robson. I know Cotter might get selected for Origin, but we'll just kind of have to wait and see. But yeah, I feel like this is one where a lot of the cheapies are going to make up your numbers, and just try and have at least 3 to 4 guys that you think have high upside and are worth holding, like those guys we just previously mentioned. Because even if I field 11 and say, Maxi, you field 13 or 14, if I can get that B, C, or C right and have a few pods in there, that could be all the difference to me scoring 100 plus more and saving some trades in the way. So, yeah, it's a tough. I feel like it's actually a pretty tough buy round, just because all the superstars are in the Origin arena.
Yeah, it's tough, and I suppose, you know, Joey Manu also looks like a key one to bring in. I mean, I've got Daniel Tupou. I certainly wouldn't be bringing someone like him in with their run, but you could go worse if you really need a number for that round 13 buy. Yeah, I mean, there's not too much outside of that. If you've got you and 8 can hold on to someone like him, assuming he's, you know, the injury and obviously the concussions don't accrue in the next round. You know, obviously you've got like, you know, some other ones you can scrape the barrel with, but I mean, yeah, you look forward to that round 17 buy. Would you also be, if you didn't have, this is probably a good question, which brings us on to our next question is, obviously not the Warriors play that round 13 buy. Would you be bringing in someone like a Sean Johnson for that buy as a potential pod? You talked about it in the last podcast, but tell us a bit more about it.
Yeah, I 100% think you can. The reason why I kind of left Sean Johnson and went with like Garner and that is because I knew if he did do what he did, you could still pick him up for just under 400K, and it's still a good buy because we know what Sean Johnson can do. It's hard without the goals, but he looked a bit more involved. I guess the main thing too is if you have a look, if most people will have Cleary and Munster, potentially like Cody Walker and that means that most buy players are not going to, us coaches, are going to be running without a half. So if you have someone like Sean Johnson and he goes really well in round 13, that'd be one advantage you could have on most of the other field because, yeah, as I'm looking at it, like right now, I don't see myself playing. I won't have a half to play unless I make a trade. So, like say you have someone like Snyder who unfortunately come out and scored 12 today. Now he's just going to lose more money, which I'm spewing about. I think he's a good segue off to Johnson, because Johnson, if he's going to start to make a bit of money now, and then after this buy round, if he starts going crap again, you can upgrade him to, as you said before, Maxie, Jerome Hughes. So if you're willing to use some trades there, he could be a bridge to a keeper if he doesn't, get back to that kind of form, which I don't know if he can, but I think he's definitely relevant enough for the next 4 or 5 weeks.
Yeah, and one thing, I mean, the price is absolutely right with someone like an SJ. I mean, 311k. Obviously, he's going to go up a bit, but
close to 400.
The risk is not that high. Yeah, it's not going to be that high for someone of his caliber. They do play the Knights this week, which is a matchup he could again go back to back in, and so he's not a terrible trade in. I mean, obviously in round 13 they have Manly, but it's going to be an under strength Manly team.
No DCE.
No DCE, no Jakey. So, I mean, you get the best. I mean, worst case scenario, you get 2 weeks out of him, especially in a buy round, and then you pivot him off to someone else. So, I definitely think. I mean, if you can swing it, he might be a good one to bring in. And I mean, he's obviously dual halfback and 5'8", which gives you that kind of flexibility. Might be looking at if I didn't have Munster and Cody, he'd be someone I'm definitely looking at. Another question on the Warriors. Cram Stedmelk, sorry if I pronounced your name incorrectly. He's asking, who would you replace AFB with as a similar price? I don't think I'd be selling AFB around round 13 despite him scoring 50s, right?
No way. If you've held him for this long and not been frustrated with him, I would just get that 40 or 50 points in the round 13 buy, and then look to move him on to a guy that will help you with the next buy in the rest of the season.
Yeah, for sure. And the last question from Guy Bailey, contentious question, but let's say you're obviously trading out Turbo this week. Give us your top 3 trade targets.
Oh, that's a tough question. If you didn't have, it's tough, because I'd say if you didn't have someone like Tedesco, maybe you grab Tedesco, but then again, it's a buy round, so he might miss a few games. So it's a very tough question. I think I would go for one of Joey Manu. I know I've said that the whole podcast, but one of Joey Manu, Garrick, and then maybe you could go a pod route. Have a look at all the fullbacks available for the first buy round. I know Dylan Edwards has been going, okay. Maybe look for one if you've got the trades that can give you a short-term boost with a nice matchup. But yeah, I kind of more so would be leaning towards the 2 I mentioned first. I wouldn't try and waste that trade if you didn't need to, because you're going to need Pappenhausen at some point. So yeah, they're the only 2 that stick out for me. What about you, Maxie? Do you have anyone else that you think you could go?
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of where I'm looking, Joey Manu or Ruben Garrick. It's going to be a hard toss-up between which one you go. I mean, Kiraz is my other trade for sure. So it's really a toss of a coin. There is a part of me that wants to see a bit more of Manly this week without Turbo. It's kind of confirm that Ruben's going to keep on scoring those keeper scores. But I think those are the type of moves that you make. Going back to AFB, the comments are saying that AFB got injured, which I didn't see. I
didn't catch all of that game either. So if he got injured, we both. I didn't watch that game, unfortunately. So if he did get injured, then that would change my answer to that. Confirm how long he's out for.
Minutes. I mean, he still played 46 minutes. I mean, maybe he went down at the end. I mean, if he's going to miss round 13, ship him out. But,
100%. If he's injured, even if he's going to miss that buy round with a 2-week injury, he'd go, because he's not looking like a keeper. So, look at a nice buy round target, or if you can move stuff around, you might grab Peoples if you need to make money to grab a gun. It's an option.
Yeah, well, they believe it's a Liz Frank injury, which isn't a short-term injury. So
he'd be gone for it. Okay.
Yeah, gone for a while. Sorry, last question. Jack Garrity said Luke Keary kept the whole season. Is he coming good to keep?
You wouldn't look to sell him right now, because that buy round is coming out, and his scores actually haven't been too bad. Even against the Panthers, a 65 here, and then the matches before that, 39, 105, 60, 45. He's not going too bad. If he's your backup 5'8", then I'll just hold him for now, because I still believe Roosters haven't got to the absolute top form yet, and there is a chance they could hit those straps later in the season. So maybe just hold him. If he's your main 5'8", then I would definitely look at selling him to one of the other guns like Munster if you didn't have him post first buy round, or making it happen and go for a half to target for the second buy round, because I feel like there's more genuine halves that you can target for that next one.
Yeah, I mean, couldn't have said it better myself. It's a case of holding for round 13 and then ship him off. Again, with Origin and restings and all that type of stuff, Cody Walker doesn't seem to be doing anything fantastic. Munster might be rested a little bit after Origin. You just don't know. So hold him and then ship him off, I'd say, to someone who plays round 17, or if you can get a keeper like Munster and they're not being rested and items of that sort, bring him in. But I definitely do think there are, he's improving, and Roosters are too, which is fantastic. Well, that brings us to the end of the Sunday night podcast. Fantastic debut for you, Mr. Adard. I wouldn't expect anything less from the absolute Don. Good luck for this week, and let's bring this one home.
Yeah, you too, mate. Hopefully we can do a late comeback. I know we're both technically coming 4th and 5th in our little SuperCoach experience group. So, hopefully make a bit of a comeback over the next few rounds, which we're slowly doing. So, yeah, thanks for having me, and I'm sure I'll be on at some point later in the year when I can't make a during the week episode.
Well, always a pleasure to have you on. You're welcome anytime. All right, take care, Marky.
Take care. Good luck with SuperCoach, guys. Have a good one.
See you, mate. Bye.